Well, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa says more needs to be done to address gender parity in the country and within the ANC. Ramaphosa says while much work has been done, more women need to be appointed to positions of leadership. He delivered the party's political report at the party's 55th National Conference in Nasrec in the south of Johannesburg yesterday. The conference is expected to elect new leadership and review past policies. Only 2 women have been nominated ahead of the conference, both for the position of Deputy Secretary General. Now, let's discuss this further. We are now joined via Zoom by Karabo Mokgonyana. She is a legal and development practitioner and program director at the Sesi Fellowship and Skill Hub. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, Karabo. Well, we are obviously focusing on the ANC's national conference. You heard President Cyril Ramaphosa there saying that they are making strides. In fact, one of our reporters, Natasha Piri, spoke to Baleka Mbete saying that, women are in fact capable to lead in any position within the party. I mean, do you think this is lip service from the party itself, seeing that we're not really seeing them take, the role of women as seriously as they say they are?
Thank you so much for having me, Unati. I would definitely say it is lip service from the political party, because I think since 1994, we've just been seeing a reflection of gender representation being in the top 6 specifically, being left to Deputy Secretary General roles. So it's 1 out of 6, or at least 2 out of 6, with Baleka Mbete having been national chairperson. However, it's so entrenched that we have an unequal power relations, and there is a patriarchal system that is entrenched within the organization that creates a belief that top 6 leadership is synonymous with men. And that is not to say we acknowledge that the 50% quota that they speak about has absolutely contributed to women being represented in both the executive and parliament. However, a blanket 50% quota is risky because it does not necessarily speak on where and which positions women are actually occupying. And that's why we're not seeing a reflection of women in the top 6. Women are automatically excluded because there is a hiding behind this 50% quota, which is not equitable at all.
I mean, in fact, in this interview with Baleka Mbete, she actually made reference that, dating as far back as, 1912, in fact, you could have seen some very strong women, taking position. But at that time, we know that women weren't even allowed, in the party. What would it take? To have the kind of commitment that the president speaks to. He says, of course, this is a reflection not only on the party itself, but something that we are noticing and seeing nationwide as well, as it relates to gender parity.
Okay, so I think it will take 2 things. The first being, at political party level, political parties need to basically commit to a zebra system. And how the zebra system works is that if you have a man who is a president, you have a deputy who is a woman. But also not necessarily then subjecting women to constant deputy positions, because that's the one thing that we've been seeing. So we need to ensure that the 50% quotas do come with a equitable zebra system that says you need to then have women take up on these specific positions.
Karabo Mokgonyana, she is a legal and development practitioner and program director at the Sesi Fellowship and Skill Hub. We are talking about the role of women in the ANC. Now, you recall yesterday during his political report, Cyril Ramaphosa saying that more needs to be done to address gender parity in the country and within the ANC. Karabo, thank you so much for your patience. Now, one of the things that you were talking about before we went to that interview with Natasha and Tony Yengeni was that was a question really, when will we start seeing women leading in the ANC and taken seriously? I mean, what kind of structures does then the party need to entrench to make this happen?
Thank you so much, Unati. So I would say the zebra system that I had spoken about, to say a zebra system basically enables, an exchange of gender representation. So when you have a presidential candidate who's a man, you have a deputy candidate who's a woman, and so forth. So that automatically then enables, top 6 representation of women, and ensures that, 3 of the positions are taken by women and 3 of them are then taken by men. But also we may need to escalate this at a national national level and adopt legislation that forces political parties to ensure that their candidate lists do actually reflect women. You know, a lot of the times we only see women come into the top 6 as a result of, besides the Deputy Secretary General role that has constantly been given to them, either when they're coming in an acting capacity or in a replacement capacity. Otherwise, then if they do start their own political parties and then are regarded as the presidential candidates. But outside of that, we're not seeing a lot of men who are saying we are willing to step aside. So I think the big question then to a lot of the male leaders and the candidates is, are you willing to step aside for women to take on these roles and lead the country? And as far as I'm concerned, a lot of them are not necessarily willing to do so.
I mean, also what probably complicates matters too is, you know, just certain comments that have been made in the past, even from, you know, the ANC women's structures themselves, with comments that, for instance, women are too emotional, you know, to lead the party. I mean, some of the narratives coming from women probably also need to be interrogated.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, it's not to say that men are the reason why women are not necessarily in these places. There are women who are also gatekeeping the fact that men are synonymous with the top 6 positions. And we need to dismantle a lot of those narratives. And starting with the, you know, Women's Youth League is the best way. However, it's then also important to equally just generally dismantle the idea that, you know, an emotional person cannot lead. You know, I often look back to say, okay, the reason why we even attain democracy is because people are angry. Anger is an emotion. So I think we then need to question as to what being an emotional person is and how that translates into incapacity to lead. Because you can be emotional and really lead well. So we do need to dismantle a lot of those narratives, and it will have to start with women, and the Women's League needs to take that on.
All right, Karabo, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Really do appreciate it. Karabo Mokgonyana there, and of course she is a legal and development practitioner, just weighing in on the role of women within the ANC. All right.